There's a hidden reason why people are aging a lot faster than they should be. And this is really important. And unfortunately, a lot of people are not concerned about aging until they start to age. At any age, you need to know this. If we have too much iron, we do not live as long. And it's related to iron deficiency anemia. If most of us are deficient in iron and we get it in the diet, obviously that should improve it to some degree, right? On the flip side, we're accumulating more and more iron. There's an incredible paper by Professor Bruce Ames, I'm going to put it down below, which talks about some research that he did in identifying old tissue versus younger tissue as it relates to iron. Well, we have all sorts of amazing systems in the body to protect us against iron. Iron rusts out our organs. If you took something called hydrogen peroxide, you probably have it in your medicine chest. You take hydrogen peroxide and put it on an open wound and you see it bubbling up and it kills bacteria. Just think about adding hydrogen peroxide to iron. It's going to be severely reactive. That creates a lot of damage within your cells. The DNA of the cells, the membrane, the mitochondria. I'm not drinking hydrogen peroxide, so how would that be a problem? Your body makes hydrogen peroxide. Not to mention our immune system uses hydrogen peroxide to kill microbes. But if that system breaks down, all hell breaks loose. I think what happens with these anemic kids, they have something called dysfunctional iron, where iron is locked up to the point where it's not available to the red blood cells, so they become anemic, yet at the same time they might have too much. Here we are adding all this iron to the food supply, and we're wondering why it doesn't work. It may be even making things worse. Too much iron will really put you at risk for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancer, heart disease, because iron can create a lot of oxidative stress. Too much oxidation without having the buffer, which is the antioxidant networks. You can get antioxidants from food and supplements, but your body makes antioxidants. In fact, that's way more important than the antioxidants from the food. A lot of people also have chronic infection. They get inflammation. And then on top of everything, the fact that we are getting older and we're aging means that we're going to naturally accumulate more iron. 70% of all your iron is stored in protein in your blood that helps you carry oxygen. The hemoglobin storage, you can pretty much look at that as a very large bowl, okay, that stores iron. And then you have ferritin, which is like a teacup, like 10%. And ferritin is supposed to be inside your tissues, where it can protect you against this free iron and control when it's released. When you see high levels of ferritin in the blood, recycling your red blood cells every 120 days, and it's creating new red blood cells. And so you have this incredibly efficient recycling system. It's recycling iron. And you have all these different mechanisms and proteins involved in transporting iron, protecting iron, because iron can be very reactive. And the other problem is your body doesn't want to have too much free iron because certain pathogens, microbes, can eat iron. Infections love the iron and they will steal iron for their fuel. Our bodies don't want that, so we tend to hold this iron and keep it in a safe place. And what can happen because of this dysfunctional iron is your poor red blood cells can't get the iron, yet we have way too much iron in the tissues. And unfortunately, iron increases the growth of cancer. And then there's also a lot of people that when they donate blood, man, do they feel better. Well, that would be a perfect indication that you have too much iron. If you don't fix the underlying cause, you just gave a temporary solution. What is the underlying cause? There's some fascinating information that talks about copper. Copper is a very, very important trace mineral. If you have too much iron and not enough copper, this is a big problem. But before you start taking copper, I highly recommend you start to limit the amount of iron you're exposed to. I would never take any supplement with iron at all. This is in the flour products, it's in the grain products, it's in a lot of refined carbohydrates. What foods are high in copper? Shellfish, organ meats like beef liver. If you don't eat those foods, sunflower seeds do have a good amount of copper. Even dark chocolate has some copper. Just make sure you don't get the chocolate with a lot of sugar. How do we make sure our bodies are producing enough antioxidants to counter some of this oxidative stress? To illustrate this, I want to explain a personal thing that happened to me recently. There's a very in-depth test that you can do in your body. It's called a metabolomic test. I was doing this test like very frequently, like once every 2 weeks. And what was really interesting about this, it kept showing high levels of oxidative stress. I'm like, that's weird. Upon looking at this deeper, I realized what it was. I was exercising like crazy. And exercise produces a tremendous amount of oxidative stress as well as hydrogen peroxide. What I personally needed to do to counter that is to build up my antioxidant reserve. And to do that, I needed more glutamine, which is an amino acid. You can get the most glutamine from red meat. And then I retested myself and it was much, much better. The point was there's all sorts of things that can increase the need for more antioxidant help. Alcohol, smoking, pollution, junk foods. When we think about antioxidants, we're always thinking about like vitamin C and vitamin E, which are really important, and you should definitely get those in your diet. But with your own antioxidant networks, protein is probably the most important thing. This is why it's so important to consume enough protein as you get older. And this is one reason why I don't encourage people to be vegans, because it's very difficult to get the quality protein. I have a really good friend who is a foot surgeon, and she told me every time she does surgery, she notices the muscles just are not pink, they're not red, they're kind of gray. And that's probably anemia. The problem with vegans is they have to take an iron supplement and they're not getting this heme iron. And heme iron only comes from animal products like meat. And I'm not saying not to be a vegan or a vegetarian. I'm just saying it's difficult. There are other things that help build up your antioxidants too. Now, I already mentioned copper, but zinc and manganese, these are trace minerals that can come from shellfish, seafood, things like that. Magnesium and selenium, which is another trace mineral. What are some other things you can do to get this iron out of your tissues that go beyond avoiding iron and building up your internal antioxidant networks? One is quercetin. One of the best sources of quercetin is onions. Curcumin from turmeric is a good one too. Increasing your melatonin can be very, very therapeutic. I have a whole video on this. I'll put the link down below. One of the best sources of melatonin is infrared. Over 50% of the rays of the sun is infrared. Infrared increases melatonin, and melatonin can help you regulate iron. Also, anything with tannins, like black tea, would be great. But the most powerful chelator for iron is called lactoferrin. You can get it when you consume raw milk or raw milk cheese because it's in dairy. That can help you decrease iron in your cells. You can also get it as a supplement as well. The next time you get your blood test, make sure they include ferritin. You want that number as low to 0 as possible. I hope I put this on your radar enough for you to really do these action steps that I mentioned. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.